Every player knows the drill. See shiny object, collect shiny object. We've all been there. You're standing at the end of a level, staring at a counter that says 99 shiny objects collected, and you obsessively refuse to finish until it reads 100 shiny objects collected. Somewhere along the way, beating a game stopped being enough. The question is why? Why did games become so full of things to collect? And when did those things stop feeling optional? Let's rewind past the games people usually think of first. Because before coins or rings or jiggies, collecting was already the entire point of a particular video game. Pac-Man was one of the earliest games to make that the whole objective in 1980. But Pac-Man's dots aren't doing what later collectibles would do. They're not a bonus lying around the level. They are the level. Clear the board or die trying. Pac-Man didn't make you collect to explore a level. It made you collect to survive it. That distinction matters because Pac-Man isn't giving you optional rewards or new areas to unlock. It's using collecting to create pressure inside one small contained maze. So collecting, as the main objective, already existed. Then platformers took that idea and did something nobody expected. Super Mario Bros., 1985. We all remember collecting coins. What we tend to forget is that they were completely optional. Because the actual goal in Mario was never collect things. It was get to the flagpole without dying. Coins were there, they rewarded skilled players with a higher score, encouraged risky jumps, and gave an occasional extra life. But you could ignore every single one and still beat the game. That is the opposite lesson from Pac-Man. Pac-Man made collecting mandatory. Mario made it optional. And once players didn't have to grab everything, collectibles could start doing something even more interesting. By the early 90s, collectibles started doing a new job. They started talking. Take Sonic the Hedgehog, released in 1991. Rings aren't just points, they're your health bar. Lead programmer Yuji Naka has said the mechanic was tuned specifically so Sonic could survive as long as he was holding even a single ring. A lot of players and level design breakdowns see Sonic's ring trails as more than just a health system. A line of rings tends to trace exactly where the level wants you to go. Nobody at Sega has said on record, yes, we designed the rings as a signpost, but it's a pattern that holds up if you look for it. Donkey Kong Country did something similar with bananas a few years later. Lines of them often trace a jump before you've even committed to it, showing you the way not just through the level, but to many of the game's hidden secrets. So collectibles had gone from a reward you could skip to a language you could read. And that language was about to get a lot more important, because the next console generation was going to break the thing 2D had always given players for free. Here's the thing about a 2D level. It basically explains itself. The screen has a direction. You usually go right. Now 3D took that away completely. And Nintendo knew this firsthand, building the first true 3D platformer. Shigeru Miyamoto put it plainly. He said, in earlier Mario games, we were able to measure the number of pixels Mario could jump and know exactly what was possible. Implementing jumping in 3D is really difficult, end quote. And it wasn't just jumping. Years later, discussing why 3D Mario games felt alienating to some players, Miyamoto identified the actual problem directly. He said plainly, it was easy to get lost in the playing field, end quote. In 2D, collectibles decorated the path. In 3D, they had to explain why the path existed at all. A 3D world can't just sit there and look pretty. It has to give you a reason to explore it. And it turns out Nintendo already knew exactly what that reason should be because they'd almost shipped the wrong one. Somewhere along the way, games like this earned their own name. Collectathons. Not just games that happen to have collectibles in them. Games where collecting is the game. Super Mario 64 is where that idea actually starts. But it almost didn't happen. Mario 64 nearly kept the flagpole, the traditional 2D goal. Run to the end, touch the flag, done. Nintendo actually built a version of it and then threw it out. Super Mario 3D Land director Koichi Hayashida recalled it this way. He said, when they thought about what was the most fun about playing in 3D, it was going to all sorts of places and looking for something. So they decided on players getting a star. In the same interview, Hayashida actually spelled out the risk of open 3D space. He put it bluntly. He said, wandering all around provides a lot of freedom, but carries with it the problem of not knowing where to go and getting lost. End quote. So the star collectible wasn't just decoration, it was the fix. 120 stars scattered across 15 courses, each one both a goal and a key. Collect enough, and a new part of the castle opens up. Mario 64 didn't just put collectibles inside a 3D world, it made the collectible the reason the world existed at all. That's a very subtle but elegant shift. Now you only need 70 stars to finish the game, but the idea that progress equals accumulation, not just distance traveled, was now loose in the industry. And one studio was about to take it and run. In 1998, working in the wake of Mario 64, Rare released Banjo-Kazooie and pushed the collecting idea somewhere Nintendo hadn't gone. Because Banjo doesn't just have one type of collectible, it has 6. Jiggies unlock levels, notes gate progress inside the hub world, Jinjos unlock Jiggies, Mumbo tokens buy you new abilities, honeycombs pad your health, eggs and feathers stock your abilities. You get the idea. That's 6 systems stacked on top of each other, all asking a slightly different question about how well you actually understand the game. Designer Greg Mayles explained exactly what he was going for, and it lines up almost perfectly with what we just heard about Mario 64's star problem. He said, once in a world, I wanted players to decide when they left it, not the game. So being able to explore and string together multiple Jiggies was a really important directive in maintaining immersion. End quote. If Mario 64 made collecting necessary, then Banjo-Kazooie turned it into a machine. And crucially, it worked. It all felt good. Every collectible type had a clear job. You always understood what you were missing, even when you didn't know where it was. But that clarity was about to become the thing that would be under threat. 18 months after Banjo-Kazooie, Rare shipped Donkey Kong 64. And this time, more collecting wasn't a design instinct, it was an instruction. Creative director George Andreas has said, on the record, exactly where the pressure came from. He said, Banjo-Kazooie had a lot of great things about it. One of the first things Tim Stamper, Rare's co-founder, told me was make sure there's lots to collect. I'd always go back to him and say, here's some, and he'd go, no, more things. We had to make it as much of a collectathon as possible to help try and differentiate it. End quote. So DK64 got 5 playable Kongs, each with their own colored bananas, plus coins, blueprints, medals, crowns, keys, fairies, instruments. Again, you get the idea. Somewhere north of 3,800 individual collectible items, by some counts. DK64 didn't betray the collectathon formula, it followed it further than anyone else was willing to go. And that's the honest version of this story. Not that DK64 ruined the genre, but it showed you what the genre's own logic looked like with absolutely nothing to hold it back. Now, critics at the time weren't shy about the result. One review called it an interactive egg hunt, and that description stuck. Banjo-Kazooie had made finding collectibles feel almost like solving a mystery, but depending on how you viewed Donkey Kong 64, it could make it feel like a chore. It was the same formula, same studio, 18 months apart, just an idea pushed as far as it could go. Now, obviously, the story doesn't end here. Achievements, checklists, live service progress bars, collecting kept changing long after Donkey Kong 64, and that's a conversation for another time. But here's where we'll land for now. Early games asked one question: can you reach the end? Collectathon-era games asked something completely different. Did you leave anything behind? Think about what changed along the way. Pac-Man made collecting survival. Mario made it a reward. Games like Sonic and Donkey Kong Country made it a language. Mario 64 made it progress. Banjo-Kazooie made it the whole world. And Donkey Kong 64, well, it showed you what that world would look like carrying way too much in it. Now, none of that was really about greed or padding or whatever word you want to use for too much stuff. It was just games figuring it out in real time, one release at a time. The collectible started as a reward, then it became a guide, then it became a key, and eventually it became the whole game. So I'm curious to know what you think. What does finishing a game mean to you? Is it simply when you reach the end, or is it when you've collected everything in the game? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you made it this far, as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy gaming, my friends.